let's start with the big news of the weekend, and that is President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1789. It's over 200 years old, this act, and he did it to deport a plane full of about 250 Tren de Aragua gang members, and he sent them to El Salvador. Bukele was involved. While the plane is in flight, a judge orders this plane to be turned around. He puts an injunction on it, says Trump doesn't have the authority to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. And the Trump administration defies that order, claiming that the plane was already in international airspace. Therefore, the order was null and void. It did not apply to that situation. The criminals, the Tren de Aragua gang members, are now in El Salvador at the terrorism detention center there. But the controversy is ongoing. Everybody on the left is claiming this is going to be a constitutional crisis. And actually, Blake, on the one hand, they might be right. You're even hearing voices on the right now saying this is a constitutional crisis because these national injunctions by these district court judges, of which there are more than 200 of them, actually this has been a crisis that the Trump administration wanted to pick. They wanted to pick a fight, and the question was, which was the right fight to pick? Your take, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. We are headed towards some sort of constitutional showdown. We discussed, I think we tweeted last week, the number of nationwide injunctions from federal judges in the first 2 months of the Trump administration. In fact, I think just in February alone was more than the first 3 years of the Biden presidency. And some of that's not super surprising because Trump has been very aggressive. He has been very assertive. He's done more things that could provoke a nationwide injunction. But at the same time, you're getting to the point you're realizing there's going to be, if a district judge has the power to do a nationwide injunction, and you have these judges who've been appointed by Obama, appointed by Biden, they've been radicalized to hate Trump for a decade, they're going to come up with a justification for a nationwide injunction on anything. And immigration is the best example. During Trump's first term, this isn't well remembered, but during Trump's first term, you had judges ruling that Trump couldn't be deporting illegal immigrants, couldn't do his immigration enforcement stuff. I think this was maybe DACA related, but he couldn't do immigration enforcement stuff basically because he'd made anti-immigrant tweets during the campaign. And so this showed that Trump was doing these things for hateful reasons. So, Obama could have done it, but Trump couldn't because he was doing it with hate in his heart. He had the wrong motivations. And so now we're coming around to, okay, the president doesn't have the power. We have had an absolutely blown open border under Biden, unprecedented incursions, and you have these judges issuing nationwide micromanagement of, actually, you need to turn these planes around right now or else, even though they're in international waters. At that point, okay, could the judge say, actually, the planes have to keep flying until they crash, and you have to move these troops elsewhere? You get to the point where the judges clearly think they can rule on absolutely anything nationwide. And you don't want to reach the point where a president can just veto anything a judge does. But at the same time, we have one president. We don't have whatever number of district court. We don't have 240 presidents nationwide who can all veto each other. It is impossible to have a country in that way, and it's impossible to have a border in that way.
Well, I'm fascinated. I mean, you bring up an interesting point that we had over 200,000, or maybe depending on what the number is, it was either 10, 15. Trump has said it's up to 20 million illegal migrants entering the country. Hard to know what that number is. But, there wasn't national injunction saying, Joe Biden actually has to enforce the border laws that we have on the books. There wasn't, it only seems to work one way. And I think that's ultimately where the frustration lies, is that they do a lot of judge shopping, and these activist liberal judges view the judiciary, the role of the judges of the Article 3, courts in this country, they view it more from an activist lens. So we're almost at a structural disadvantage because conservative judges tend to not overstep their boundaries as much. whereas an activist judge sort of feels the need to do so, right? And so there's actually, it's easier for the left to activate this policy. Now,
I don't think we should overstep that, Andrew, because we've definitely had nationwide injunctions under the Biden administration, under the Obama administration. I think there were nationwide injunctions on provisions of Obamacare till that went to the Supreme Court. I think there have been nationwide injunctions on I think some gun-related stuff. So there's definitely
there was some in the Texas showdown. No, absolutely. I'm saying that by and large, it is one side does it more than the other. You alluded to as much. Yes, Trump has been more active. That would provoke more of a reaction from the left. But in general terms, this is a tactic that the left has employed far more successfully and far more times than has happened on the right. And I think just by disposition, a conservative judge is less likely to go stick his foot into matters that he or she doesn't feel they need to. But yeah, it does happen both sides. Granted, point taken. But what I'm also fascinated about, Blake, is this idea that of the strategy behind this. So they've essentially been itching for this fight in the Trump administration. All of these national injunctions that have come down, there is a whole legal theory behind this, and we have Josh Hammer in hour two, and we're going to bring it up with him as well, where a district court is, and by the way, this is there's more activities happening. There's more people that are working on this behind the scenes. That the theory is that a district court ruling should only apply to the people that are involved in it from the plaintiff and defendant standpoint. It should not, therefore, be a nationwide injunction. And, I think there's some strong, historical rationale behind that. But this idea that one judge can then essentially rule the country, at least in specific policies, is a very, very new phenomenon in the Republic. And we can break all that down.
Think you're getting enough nutrition from your food? Think again. Right now, it takes 3 carrots to get the same nutrition as 1 carrot from 100 years ago. Our food supply has been hijacked by big agencies, stripped of the minerals your body needs to function at its best. Dr. Linus Pauling, a 2-time Nobel laureate, saw this coming. He warned, quote, "The world is sick due to a lack of minerals in our foods. Most supplements today give you 12 essential minerals, but your body needs at least 60 to thrive. That's why Immuno 150, Immuno 150 is a game changer, delivering 13 essential vitamins, 70 plant-based minerals, and 68 additional nutrients. This administration is going to make America healthy again, but it's our job to be informed and make good choices. Immuno 150 gets you on track for better health. Visit Immuno150.com. That's Immuno150.com. Or call 855-593-5500 to get yours. It's time to take back control of our nutrition.
I was really fascinated about the strategy of this. And so just to let people in behind the scenes of what happened is they basically tried to, oftentimes Trump will sign these executive orders really publicly. It's for all the world to see. They did this in sort of secret. Where he's invoked the 1789 law, the Alien Enemies Act. And then it got leaked. They found out about this. They rushed to get these 250 Tren de Aragua gang members, domestic terrorists, if you will, but from a foreign gang, on the plane as ASAP. The thing goes to court. These guys are in the air as this ruling happens. They say, well, over international waters. Do you think this was the right fight to pick just because of the optics? Because essentially it puts the Democrats in a place where they have to say, well, we're defending criminal gang members. Do you think that's the right pick? Do you think this was the right fight to pick this with these courts?
Well, if we were going to have a showdown with the courts, I think immigration is the best place to have a showdown with them. It's where we most consistently have judges trying to do things that are insane, where they're basically saying you're not allowed to deport any illegal criminals. Like, it's almost like 25% of the federal judiciary is just far left radicals who believe there's like Article 1 of the Constitution is just America has open borders no matter what. And so it's a good fight to have in that sense. I do hope that they're 110% on, like, all of this implodes immediately if they ever accidentally deport someone who is a U.S. citizen, for example. So I hope they're 110% on that. But if all of them are foreign gang members and they've come in huge numbers under Biden, that's definitely the best way that Trump can justify, I need dramatic action. It's also a good area to fight because the president's authority over immigration under the law is very high. The president basically can exclude people that he deems a threat to the United States. The president, as commander-in-chief, has the very explicit constitutional authority to defend the United States. And I think they're on strong grounds if they say, okay, maybe 100 years ago, this would get invoked primarily during wartime, but these days you don't have as much war between states, but you have far greater ability for non-state actors such as criminal gangs to just intrude into your country and cause mayhem. And I think the Trump administration is on strong grounds to say that is the modern version of a military invasion, of a foreign horde showing up and trying to sack your cities, and the president needs to invoke aggressive powers to combat this. I'd much rather be having them show down with the courts over this than, for example, we'll probably discuss this later, like the auto pen thing with Biden. I think this is something where the interest of the American people is very clear, and you're forcing Democrats into this box of defending, oh yeah, we don't want gang members deported, and eventually they'll be able to say, this guy was involved in a home invasion, this guy was involved in murders, this guy was caught with 10 kilos of fentanyl. There's so many things they can get them on.
Well, and this district judge, James Boasberg, this is the judge that essentially stepped in and said that, you can't be using the Alien Enemies Act of 1789 to deport these 250 alleged Tren de Aragua gang members. This is also a guy, by the way, that gave Eric Cimarella, if you will recall, from the FBI investigation into Trump. He was the one who falsified the actual FBI documents, which is a federal crime, a very serious one. This is the same judge that basically gave him a slap on the wrist. So that's a weird, little wrinkle here that I've heard other Republicans say, hey, this guy has it out for Trump. He's an anti-Trump judge. You can't trust this guy. It's a very serious crime that Cimarella committed against the country, specifically targeting President Trump. And this is so that judge has come back around now and is a thorn in the side of the Trump administration. I mean, I'll put my 2 cents in here, and then we're going to go to break and welcome in Senator Rick Scott. But my 2 cents here is that if you are going to pick a fight, the authority vested in the president to handle foreign activities, whether that be immigration or war or treaties with other countries, is pretty established within the courts. If you're going to pick a fight, do it there, because it's the firmest footing that a president has constitutionally. I love this. I think it politically, optically, I love all of it. And I love that the White House was essentially, specifically Stephen Miller, was itching for this showdown with Article 3. So it's an Article 2 versus Article 3 showdown. I think it's the perfect one to do it. Nobody likes Tren de Aragua. They need to go. And the American people agree with them on that.